You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means it's time once again to view some volatility. Yes, it is time for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. You guys know the drill. Join us live every Friday, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, via Mixlr. You can go deep into our archives on the website or our mobile app. Or, of course, you can just subscribe on your device of choice, your iTunes, your TuneIns, your Pocket Cast, whatever you like to use. And then you have it delivered to your device of choice. You can sit back, relax, do your commute, do your workout, and listen to some Vol View. And, of course, however you listen, hit us up. Questions, comments, insights, all that good stuff. We do indeed like to hear. How many of those VXX puts have you bought? Let us know. We do like to hear from you guys. And joining us on the old program today, let's see who we got. Let's spin the Vol Views wheel of fun. Oh, and it comes up. He has been assigned. He has been assigned to be on the show today. It is the Rock Lobster, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, that one lot you sold, you never thought would come back to roost, but here it is. You have been assigned onto the show, sir.
You know what? It happens sometimes. You think you're not going to be assigned, yet you are assigned.
Just shows net short units comes back to bite you. There we go. As we keep on rolling right on into the Volatility Review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where we review the week that was and indeed still is from a volatility trading and trending and all that good stuff perspective. Like I said, we are recording and streaming this live a little bit past noon Central here on Friday, July 27th. So a lot of stuff popping off. It seemed like we had one show in store for us coming into showtime. Then as the vol space is wont to do, the narrative changes. The worm turns. And we got maybe a little bit of a different show going on here. We shall see. Interesting stuff here. But as we're going into the showtime, it was kind of a mixed bag. A lot of the indices were actually up slightly on the day. We saw that ridiculously good GDP number coming out this morning. Markets seemed like they were in a happy mood. And then coming to showtime now, like we said, the worm has turned most of the major indices firmly into the red. The tech-heavy Nasdaq kind of leading the drubbing off well over 1%, about 1.5%. The S&P close to 1%, about 0.8%, and the Dow off about 0.5%. All this red means a VIX Cash just going on an explosion upward, up almost a handle and a half as we're talking, or for those of you percent to percent folks, right around 12%, right around 13.5%. Here coming into showtime. So interesting, Mr. Rock Lobster. A bit of a different narrative than it seemed when we were first laying out the show, even a few hours ago. Different show entirely. Are you caught unawares by this as well, sir?
I have some VXX puts that are that are definitely dead for the day. I thought we had a little shot at 29 today, but I am as wrong as the day is long right now. So thankfully, it's not life-changing, and I got a couple other things to offset it, but still disappointing nonetheless. Surprising, all I can say is I think the volatility is coming from all the Q stocks. Facebook kind of putting like, okay, growth is sort of done. We can get all into that, but I think definitely from the upside momentum point of view for the Qs and everything else is, it's ugly city here. It's for the Q stocks, like, all the big earnings are out. We just have Apple left. Even, Amazon, they're calling into question now, maybe some of the multiples, certainly called into question Facebook's multiple, although it's not down a whole lot more than it was yesterday. Amazon now gave back, $60 or what, $40 of its gain. So I think a lot of that is just repricing the Qs, and we'll see where it is. That's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Yeah, it has been fascinating. I was planning to kick things off talking earnings, but maybe we'll have to table that earnings volatility for a little bit, because I don't know if you know, Mr. Rock Lobster, but things have been happening in the world of earnings, and it has been topsy-turvy. But maybe we'll see. We'll get into all that fun stuff. Like I said, VIX Cash hovering, about about a handle and a half north of where it was, a little bit less than that, where it was last week. Right around last week, it was pretty much in this low 12 handle range. Now about 13 and a half. VVIX coming into the show was 91. Let's see where we are right now. It is 90, pushing 98 right now. So getting, it was about 8-9 points lower than it was last week. Now kind of pretty much almost unched where it was last week. So that, again, that's shows you just how much the worm can turn in a few seconds out here. Let's pull up the old VIX futures as well. See how the term structure is looking with the cash right around 1360 or so. We're seeing that front month future at about 0.9, about 14 and a half or so, a little bit 0.9 away or so. 2 months out, SEP future, off about, looks like 1.6 handles up to about 15 and a quarter out there. So interesting stuff. Things, I guess you can say, in the rocketing north mode, Mr. Rock Lobster.
I guess the vol part is what's weird is we really haven't had a new real low for VIX in about a week. We're just discussing that in our chat room right now. So it's been about 10 days, no new lows in vol with the rally in SPX. Although vol was going down from those higher levels, now it's kind of stuck. So we'll see what happens. Just this last week, we have been stuck-ish, and the real question is where do things go now? Where does the vol go now? Where do the Qs go? Can we get to some sort of can we get to some sort of new vol level where they actually break out? Because obviously we have a good jump in vol right now, and of course that means we're probably out of VIX zone -6.
Yeah, I can't say my zone -6 this week, so I think we just end the show there, because I'm just too sad to go on. Once you break out of zone -6, what's really the point? I mean, zone -5 doesn't have the same ring, the same cachet to it. I think you would agree.
It doesn't. Although we have moved into zone 2, but I mean barely. Barely, and we have, I think the curve I'm looking at now is looking pretty dang flat. As I guess your listeners won't be able to hear this till Monday, but it's the curve has flattened, but I would not say it's really flat. We still have like a kind of a healthy contango-esque. So while we've absorbed some of the move up, we're still looking for, the market is not, let's put it this way, the market is not jumping and fading this vol move as of yet, at least from the future point of view. Nothing untoward. The futures didn't totally absorb all of this. They only absorbed some and lifted from, I think what we traded 1385 or something in the August. So there's definitely a little more room now all around.
I'm trying to think the last time we were doing a show like this and the vol kind of suddenly turned in a different direction mid-show. And the last time I could think of was back in the election, 2016, when the Hillary email, stuff leaked again towards the end, right around, what was that, October or so, I believe. And so all of a sudden, vol started turning on a Friday, and we're like, what's going on? And it was news that they were, reopening the investigation. I'm not saying this is anywhere near the same extreme, obviously, but still interesting, slightly reminiscent of perhaps those days. Let's get on into the big VIX beast and see what is cooking out there today. Because otherwise, it hasn't been a rock'em sock'em robots week. It's been all right. ADV hovering right around 450,000 contracts out there right now in the big VIX mothership options. And we only broke it one day this week. That was on Tuesday, 490,000. The rest of the week pretty light. Monday, 442,000. Wednesday, 331,000. Thursday, 334. Today, we're on tap right now for $1.89 on the tape. So maybe you figure 2x that by the end of the day. But who knows? Things could change with this little bit of vol picking up, and we could blow through that, have an interesting day. Right now, still slightly elevated out there in the VIX options land with about 3.1 to 1 on the VIX open interest call to put, right about 3. So it's pretty much in line with where it was last show in terms of what the big stuff what is open, the top 10 VIX strikes out there right now. Again, it is still kind of a quiet period out there, so OI kind of slight. So number one on our list this week, only 203,000 contracts for the AUG 20s, opening up number one here. Number two, the AUG 28s, $1.89, pushing $1.90. Number three, the AUG 30s. That 30 strike continues to just capture the imagination across the board, 181,000 of those bad boys open. Number four, the AUG 25s. So you got a nice little call strip in AUG 1 through 4 there. AUG 25s, 167,000. Number five, our first put on the list, the AUG 14s, $1.52 open. Number six, the AUG 21s, 149,000. Number seven, the comparatively reasonable AUG 17s, 147,000. Number eight, the second put on our list, the AUG 12s, 134,000. Number nine, the AUG 13 puts, as the Irish would say, 122,000. And rounding out the top 10, the interesting kind of middle close strike, AUG 29. So if 30 is a bridge too far for you, 29, dialing it back a little bit there, 116,000. Total of about 6.4 million contracts open. About 4.8 million on the calls, about 1.6 million open on the puts. So yeah, not a huge, crazy, turbulent week. Maybe today is changing that. Maybe I'll do a little dig in, Mr. Rock Lobster, in today's activity while you regale us with what caught your eye this week in VIX options activity, sir.
It was one of those, again, another one of those VIX weeks where we just didn't see a ton. I mean, we had expiration last week, normal expiration, the serial expiration. And it's like one of those where we didn't get like a whole lot of action as far as options go. I did see some VXX put buying, like the 29s and 30s around September, stuff like that. I don't recall seeing a ton of August activity. Actually, I'm just looking at a couple of positions we've got here. So that's almost something there. What I would say is there wasn't a whole lot of activity, and I think a big part of that because VIX was not moving very much. The futures were kind of stuck in sort of what I would call a fair value range. There wasn't any early aggressive future sales. And normally that doesn't lead to a ton of new VIX volume, right? Because basically, if the product you're trading doesn't move for, a week, what am I going to do? There was nothing to respond to. There's nothing to trade off of. It's not. It just wasn't a whole lot. I mean, we moved from 1210 to 1225 to 1245 to 1265 back to 1225. So there wasn't what I would call a plethora of activity in VIX. So I think just the way it's set up, you're like, well, you're getting some movement, but there's not a ton, just not a ton of movement. So at that point, you don't have a lot of movement, you don't have a lot of activity, and that's what we got. I mean, you can just see some of the stuff you're highlighting for some of the top trades. It's not like people were putting up 25,000 lots or anything like that. So it's where we are. I guess that's the easy way to describe it.
Yeah, I'm looking here, today's paper, pretty much not much new hitting the tape, even with this little bit of a worm turning out here. Still the big trade of the day out here are the SEP 21 calls for 80 cents, 10,000 times. Paper crushing out the bits, maybe a bit of an overwriting, perhaps bad timing on that. Maybe wait a few minutes on those from this morning, and probably would have got a better print on those bad boys. But again, could be closing as well. There's so much OI on all these strikes that sometimes it's hard to determine when the trades are so small. 10K, big in most names, in VIX, kind of just a drop in the bucket. Also looking to see, we got a bit of, looks like a put 1x2 going up today. It was the AUG 14.5, 13 put 1x2, 5,000 by 10,000 times. It looks like paper selling one perhaps and buying two. It's interesting. $1.76 on the 14.5 puts and 73 cents on the 13 puts. 5,000 by 10,000 times. Interesting. That's the way they went, buying one, selling two. Interesting that way. We don't see, we usually see a lot of call 1x2s. Put 1x2s have never been really high in favor, Mr. Rock Lobster. How does this one float your boat? And how would you want to buy one and sell two there? Would you prefer to have it the other way?
Well, especially, and we're looking at the 81 calls over the 51 or the 48 calls. In that case, how just, that type of trade has, I feel like as a opening trade, that's kind of a rough one. Mostly because, and I understand now why they did this is because vol, you do have vol rising. The problem is the 81 options, they're going to start to blow up if you do get a move to, let's say, 50 VIX. Your 48s for 51 cents probably go to $5. Your 81 calls probably go to $1.50 or $2. So you have a little bit of action there.
You're looking at VXX. You're looking at VXX. I was wondering, 81 calls, where you getting that from? But you're looking at VXX. I was talking the 1x2 put spread in VIX land. It was the, what do we got here?
Okay.
AUG 14.5, 13 put spreads, 5,000 by 10,000 times. Looks like maybe buying one, assuming the 14.5 puts, selling two of the $13 puts in AUG, 5,000 by 10,000 times. How's that one float your boat, sir?
Okay,
We'll get to the 81 calls. You're getting ahead of me.
I'm trying to. All of a sudden, all of my data just went totally blank that I'm looking at. So, which is not thrill me right now with the platform. I have to say that. So let's see. I got off track looking at the wrong thing, which does not help us right now at all. So, I think most 1x2s in VIX. To me, it's like, why do you ever bother selling the downside put at all? I don't. You might as well wait selling puts in VIX till the very last minute, just because, the futures are usually more expensive. You never get anything for them, so it's not a. It is not one of my favorite trades unless the opportunity really presents itself.
Yeah, it's weird stuff going up out here in VIX land today. Not a ton of paper this week. And even today now with this little bit of a change out here, we're still not seeing big contracts changing hands as a result. Maybe that will change. We'll keep an eye on that as we move on out to another product. I think one or two of you have traded in your day. VXX. Ticking up a little bit, shall we say, this week. It's coming in. It was right around 30.5. Mr. Rock Lobster was betting that we would see the 29 handle today. We've asked you guys in the past about that. I think we have a poll question about that out there as well. Let me see. I'll just forward that ahead now. We could discuss the results of that. Now, we asked you guys. Here we go. We asked you guys last week. We said at the time VIX was back in the erosion zone, not quite zone -6, but it was getting close. And we asked you guys. Everyone's waiting with bated breath for it to break the 30 handle. When do you think VXX finally going to break 30? Think it was going to be last week? It was going to be this week? It was going to be never? What would you think? We gave you 4 choices, of course. The week ending Friday the 20th, week ending today, Friday the 27th, week ending next Friday, the 3rd, or never. You're a long vol bull. I think Mr. Rock Lobster, and I think I'll probably in that camp too. I was thinking hopefully maybe this week, maybe a little bit of wishful thinking there. Our audience was actually pretty evenly split. 32% saying today, this Friday. 32% saying next Friday the 3rd, so still got a good chance there. 31% saying never, I'm long vol, the heck with all you short vol people. And only 5% saying last Friday, which is probably a good time. I don't think we posted it till Friday morning, so probably a good one to avoid that one. But this week, it looked like a pretty decent bet, and so far at least, unless this worm turns again very aggressively, probably not going to happen here this week. All those juicy VXX puts, kind of have to wait at least for another week. Yeah, VXX threatening. I think it got over 32 today. Got 32.32, right around 31.80 or so right now out there in VXX land. And let's see how the week has been out there in everyone's second favorite volatility product, or maybe your first if you like to just watch things erode. It's been a fairly light week as well. The ADV is hovering a little bit shy of 250,000 contracts. And this week we didn't really come close to that. Monday, 167,000. Tuesday, 140,000. Wednesday, $1.16. Thursday, $1.64 on the tape. And as of today, though, looking a little better, 206,000. We shall see if we break through that ADV. Again, summertime, so things are all going to be usually pretty light out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, I'm going to ask you the hardest of hard questions on this show. The one that's truly a brain teaser, the $1 million question, the $1 million pyramid question, if you will, here. If you had to guess right now, the number one open position in VXX options, what would it be, sir? Go.
The January 10 puts. It's the only question I seem to be able to answer today.
You don't need no stinking data to answer that one. That's 204,000 of those bad boys are open. So what'd you guys buy? 4,000 more this week? Is that how that went?
No, I think we're done. We're done with that. Actually, I got to remind Sebastian about selling some calls that we own.
Yeah, might want to look into that. send a message while I run down here the rest of the the rest of the top 10 out here in VXX options land. Once you get past those puts, it's kind of a little bit of a put palooza for a little bit. You got 74,000 of the Jan 15 puts, then 70,000 of the Jan 5 puts. Then we get interesting. Number 4, we get the Jan 50s, 5 O's, nearly 40,000, 39,000 of those bad boys. Number 5, the AUG 64s, 35,000 of those bad boys. If you're wondering, listeners, those were opened back on the 10th of July. It's just a few weeks ago. I think that might have been part of a spread. I think we talked about it here on the show. By the way, the AUG 64s are size open right now. Mr. Rock Lobster, how do you feel about those? How you like those? The chances there, sir.
I think those have a, who knows?
Yeah, we could see those hit today.
I think what the Volpocalypse was, I think this is kind of a goofy sell-off just because everybody's like, the big tech sky's the limit rally is done. And I would have to say it's probably not a terrible thing that this is just better valuations overall. However, I think the August 64 would be a stretch on this particular one. 35,000. This is definitely, I'm going to say that's stretching it a little bit.
Yeah, post Volpocalypse, we got up to 56.5 on February 9th in VXX. So if we can't break a 64 handle then, I don't know what's it going to take to do it yet again. Remember, that was coming out of the longest period of ridiculously low vol anyone's had in recent near-term memory. So we were probably prone to a little overcorrection on the upside. So if you can't break it in that perfect scenario, perfect storm for upside vol explosion, what are the chances you're going to do it in July or certainly by August expiration? I'm not going to say they're nil because I've been around this game long enough to know better than that, but interesting choice out there, shall we say, on these AUG calls. 32,000 of the SEP 22 puts, number 6. Number 7, the Jan 18 puts, 31,000. Number 8, July 28 puts, expiring on the 27th, expiring today. So those are... There's another one. Mr. Rocklobster, was that you? Is that you? You said you had some near-term VXX puts. Was that your puts? The July 28 puts expiring today?
No. Thankfully, the thing is, I have a position on, and if it's not getting a tickle to start making money, I generally don't add more, hoping it's going to get better. I'm like, all right, I'm at my limit for what this term is, and that's it. So as much as I thought maybe 2 weeks ago that was possible, once the cash is not moving lower, there's usually a reason for it. So, and I think the reason was people are like, well, maybe these cues have run out of rally for a while.
That could certainly be here. A lot of puts round out the top 10 here in VXX. 29.5 of the Jan 20 puts, and then the Jan 60 calls round out the top 10, 28,000. So all of you out there say there's no love for, no need for VXX calls. The top 10 would beg to differ for you. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 of the top 10. So 30% of our top 10 is in the call side. Interesting stuff. About 2.5 million contracts open, about 1.2 million on the calls, 1.3 million on the puts. So only slightly biased towards the puts. Let's see if we can dig in. Here's what you were talking about before, Mr. Rock Lobster. Some of your funky trades going up in VXX today. Excuse me, you had about 8,000 and change of the AUG 48s coming in. Paper writing those for 51 cents. Those are, I'm going to hope, closing. We shall see. But if they are closing, probably took a bit of a bath on those. So maybe not the best trade either way. 51 cents for those bad boys. AUG, this is the one that caught your eye, Mr. Rock Lobster. Someone looks like they're scooping up today because I don't think anyone's selling. Yeah, he lifted in the offer. This had to be you guys and the Carmen line. This 4,000 of the 81 calls expiring August 10th. Not even full AUG, August 10th. For 6 cents. Is that you, Mr. Rock Lobster? You got tired of the put side? You had to get a little bit of the upside on the strangle?
Yeah, that was us. I'm finally reading the reading the news, but I would like it to be us. But again, more interesting. Not much happening with vol and people starting to position around that just a little bit. So. We will see how that particular trade plays out. I'm also looking at how they open this trade. It almost looked like they were buying the 31s and selling the 38s. That's one of those ones where it's kind of hard to figure out exactly which way they were going on the spread.
Yes, almost as crazy as the AUG 81s, which are that's definitely my crazy trade of the week. Whether that's crazy trade of the year, I don't think so. I've seen some crazy ones this year, but that's interesting. And you're also talking about an AUG SEP diagonal, AUG 31, SEP 38 diagonal going up. Looks like about 2,500 times. Looks like they were probably buying the AUG, selling the SEP because they're hitting bids and lifting offers out there, which is an interesting trade in and of itself. Maybe roll in a bit of a short call position out. We shall see. We'll hit really quickly UVXY. Some people like it out there. Not a lot really tearing it up out there in the freshly neutered UVXY out there today. Let's see, where are we at? 979 out there in UVXY, up 0.6 on the day, or about 6.6% out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, number one position in UVXY options. Go, sir.
Let me see. Thankfully, you're asking me the easy questions again, which is, it's so hard to imagine, but the one put, not the two put, but the 3 put, but the one put. There I'm going. Yeah, I'm going right with the one put.
That's an ambitious one, Joey. As ambitious as those AUG 81 calls are in VXX, this is its own form of ambitious. The Jan 1 put, excuse me, in UVXY, 23,000 of those bad boys open. Taking up the number one position out there on all things news, UVXY. You know, we've delayed it a little bit, Mr. Rock Lobster. Total, not even a million contracts open out there, 880,000. Again, reflecting kind of the post malaise UVXY. Looking here today, really quickly, it's like the July 9s are the trade of the day. At least 1,500 of those going up for 22 cents, kind of lifting offers. So someone maybe getting a little opportunistic on 22 cents. That seems quite cheap. Let's see, when are those expiring? Oh, that's right, they're going out today. So someone playing a little bit of easy for me to say, expiration play in here. Those things are deeply in the money now. So if you bought those opening, well done to you, sir. And if you closed them out, well, then I guess it ended up being all right here. Let's look here. Let's move on to, it's been a big, crazy week for earnings, so let's get into all of that fun stuff. Mr. Rocklops, I don't know if you know this, but some stuff happened with Facebook. Did you hear?
Yeah, I know. I remember because I remember the high tick in the Qs where it was like 180, 182.70 or something like that. And then Facebook came around and threw ice water all over everything, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Facebook taking on the chin again today, up off 1.6%, right around 173. This is the name that, of course, they popped off earlier this week on Tuesday, listeners, and just crushing things when they came out and said, we expect our revenue growth rates to decline by high single-digit percentages from prior quarters sequentially in both Q3 and Q4. That's a good way to say we're going to screw the pooch in CFO speak out there. We do a lot of these earnings move reports if you're interested in trading earnings and looking at things like earnings volatility. You guys have been asking us for years, hey, how can I get some great data on earnings straddles and past performance and things like that? And our friends over there, ORATs, have been kind enough to oblige. So if you head on over to our website, you can find these earnings move reports, not just for Facebook and Amazon, for pretty much every freaking ticker under the sun. They're going crazy over there. You can also find them on the ORATS blog, ORATS.com. And you can see here, Facebook, they were pricing in, $9.81 going in to that announcement. And they sold off a little bit more than that. And let's see here, their past move was about $11.50. So even on the extreme moves, they blew the doors off that as well. They were off, about 40 handles or so, near 40 handles coming in the next morning. By the way, Mr. Rock Lobster, we asked our audience, we had them a little flash poll on Facebook. We asked them the morning after, actually going into that night, as the sell-off was happening. It said it looked like it was going to open off about 20-odd%, which it did. And I said, assuming Facebook opens at that level, what's your next Facebook options trade going to be? You want to buy calls or call spreads? You want to buy puts or put spreads? You want to sell puts or put spreads? Or do you want to sell calls or call spreads? Or do you have others? People wrote in with a ton of others. People saying Facebook is going, all kinds of crazy. By the way, someone writing in right now saying VXX going to 150. That would be interesting. Maybe someone that must be the trader of those 81 calls. What do you think, Mr. Rock Lobster?
I maybe they're talking their book up, because I mean at 150 you do pretty well. So like I said, I am net long puts, just like index and equity puts right now. So I guess it could happen and it would make me a bunch of money, but I just don't see how I'm going to get that lucky. But if it happens, I think it would be a good buying opportunity, but I don't know if I'm going to get that lucky.
So this person calling for roughly a 3x move in VXX compared to what we saw back in February. So that would be the meltdown of all meltdowns. Speaking of meltdowns, before I got distracted by all this VXX people chiming in on us here, people talking about Facebook, that was a meltdown of all meltdowns, number one in terms of market cap. I should pay off the poll too, by the way, Mr. Rock Lobster. 46% saying they wanted to buy calls or call spreads. Does that surprise you? They're buying the dip,
Facebook,
quite literally.
I think that was my call on that one.
I thought
people would be more apt to, I think Facebook has a lot of fans. All of a sudden everybody's calling everything into question about Facebook. But I thought that would be the trade, although I thought the better trade was like an iron condor or some kind of fly or something like that. So because now all of a sudden Facebook has, I would call like like a more normal growth multiple, I guess, since they knocked so much of the market cap off. So it's enough for, I don't think the stock is bouncing hard anytime soon, but it's enough to sort of, now it's probably range bound for a little while. So that would be my thought there. So a straight long call spread would not be my favorite thing, because it's not that kind of I don't think it's that kind of a pop, but I could see how people would want to buy call spreads and try to write it back up.
People chiming in. Kevin saying wants to take advantage of the vol and sell premium in Facebook. Craig Robertson says he wants to reject everyone who wasn't short. This Jack Daniels trades. I don't know if he drinks Jack Daniels while he's trading, or if he's just he enjoys trading Jack Daniel futures, perhaps. Our stock price, either way, so he's going to probably stay away from Facebook. I get it. Pro Bucks says he wants to sell out of the money monthly puts. So we got a ton of fun ones. People chiming in here with Mark Zuckerberg on the phone to the Fed saying, for bailouts, press 1. I like that. Let's Jedi Marcus. We have some creative listeners out there who can do some nice Photoshop magic. But yeah, Facebook just taking on the chin, kind of setting the tone. Now it seemed like maybe Amazon was gonna bust that narrative. They were blowing the doors off. They were pricing in $104, so they closed 1808, so right around 6%, a little bit shy of that. They opened up 1876, so up about 68 handles, so not quite a full straddle worth of movement, but still pretty good and certainly bucking the trend. And now, of course, with today's sell-off in the mix, they've pretty much given up all of that. Mr. Rocklop says, look at that. How crazy is that? If you were a premium seller last night, right around 1808, you were sweating bullets when this thing was up like 100 handles or close to it in the after hours. And even today, up in the morning, it was open up about 70 handles. And now, see, you just wait a little bit. It all comes back to you in the end, Mr. Rocklop. Isn't that how it works?
Right.
Every time it works that way?
Yeah, what's funny is normally we look at that there would be some premium, like a lot of premium to sell. And what's weird is they weren't pricing anything like ridiculously fat, like to put a fly or anything like that on. It was really kind of odd pricing, to be honest. So I totally stayed away from it. But I, like right now, I just think all of a sudden they're starting to call into question like some of these huge multiples. Like, okay, Facebook's saying there's a top on our growth, or they've at least temporary. And Amazon, while it's an enormously successful company, it still only makes about $1 billion a quarter, and it's worth $500 billion or $600 billion or something like that. So, you could see, what happens if all of a sudden, wow, yeah, Amazon's making, let's say they make $10 billion a year. Are they worth, and they're not even close to that, by the way. Are they worth $600 billion? I don't know. So it's like we could see that pull back or peel back without too much trouble. So I'm just, I'm looking at that, and I am mindful of it, let's say.
But they own Whole Foods. They've cornered the market on organic hummus. There's no limit to that multiple, sir. It's a completely inelastic demand. It's the new Philip Morris of the 21st century. Everyone's got to get their organic hummus, and the only place you can
exactly. So it's one of those where I'm just actually looking at some of my positions. I probably should sell some of my Q puts today, but I'm vacillating between the two.
Well, tell you what, while you vacillate, I'll break down some more data for you. By the way, I'm looking at, you're talking about ownership of Amazon. I saw someone sent us an interesting chart. By the way, if you're going to make a chart of what things that people, in general, of any chart, don't use similar colors for all of it. It makes it hard to delineate what the hell you're talking about. But interesting thing, one of the reasons Amazon was rallying hard, they posted decent numbers, not ridiculous numbers, but one of the things people were kind of interested in was that they've kind of diversified themselves. I was joking about the organic hummus, but only to a point. Only 51% of their sales now, their revenue, comes from online sales, Mr. Rock Lobster. So that's down from 63% a year ago. So they're not just the online store anymore. Clearly, that's still half of their business. But there's S3, obviously, still kind of a steady chunk of their business. That hasn't really grown a ton over the past year out there, and other things. Physical stores, third-party services, retail or subscription services, and then the always fun other taking up a bunch of the rest. So Amazon having diversified themselves a little bit, maybe that's some of the reason why they were rallying. Of course, they too got caught up in all the madness that is this sell-off palooza. Speaking of names that were trying to rally and then maybe getting caught up in the lack of love fest on the street today, Chipotle, the former stealth Apple, they closed right around 447. They were pricing in close to $30, about $29.50, and they opened up about $27. So pretty good pricing there in the options market for that one. They opened up right around 474, and of course, with all this sell-off in the air, they're giving up some of that now, off only up about 20 handles, up about 4.5%. So Chipotle, obviously, maybe the salmonella woes are behind them. We shall see out there. Starbucks, kind of the premium sell of the bunch, looks like out here. They closed 51.5. They pretty much opened 51.5, almost exactly unched. Now, ironically, as the market's selling off, they're rallying a bit, up about 75 cents or about 1.5%. Let's see, they're pricing in $1.62 actually. So you actually got to keep a decent chunk of that if you were harvesting the old risk premium out there. And that was pretty much in line with past expected moves anyway, about $1.80, again, according to our friends over there at ORATS. Again, if you're trading earnings, you should be looking at these charts. It's free data, and it does all the work for you. Previous quarter moves, previous calendar year moves, all these different things. They price all of that in there for you. Who else was popping off here? We've got Intel, my old stomping grounds. And also the number 2 biggest market cap wipeout, $90 billion after Facebook with $114 billion last night. Number 2, September 22nd, 2000 was Intel. Number 3, actually, with $80 billion was Microsoft, April 3rd, 2000. Number 4 was Apple with $59.6 billion on January 24th of 2013. And the top 5 of a list you don't want to be on, the biggest market cap wipeouts, ExxonMobil, October 15th, 2008, $52.5 billion coming off their market cap that day. So Intel, number 2 on that list, they closed 52 and change coming into their earnings. They opened up about 48.76, so down about $3.50 or so on the day. They were pricing in 230, so kind of exceeding their straddle, but to the downside. Today now with this sell-off kicking in, they're exacerbating that downside off about $4.50 or about 8.5%. So the blood is still in the water out there in good old tech land. Speaking of tech blood, we'd be remiss if not bring up Twitter today. They were coming in to, let's see, I don't know if I have the earnings report in front of me for Twitter, so I can't see exactly what they were pricing in. But the street not liking what they're seeing, and perhaps that being kind of the worm that turned the market after Facebook earlier this week and now Twitter. We had good news coming out today, and yet that wasn't enough to keep the market in the green. Twitter, as we're talking now, off 19% or over 8 handles, right around 34.75. So this one kind of just tearing it up to the downside. Mr. Rock Lobster, hope that's enough time for you to decide what to do with your puts. What have your crazies been up to in the pit chat? What's been all this vol across the board in the equity space? What's been catching their eye?
As far as equity vol, some of us have been looking at like stocks that the market's kind of ignored, actually, which seems to be paying. It's offsetting all the dumb stuff that I did with VXX. So as far as buying, there's been a lot of a lot of retail stocks, like big retail that was competitors to Amazon. A lot of that vol got ultra super cheap. So I've been buying some of that. Looking for buying cheap vol post earnings. Some of our guys are doing that, especially some of the guys in our pro group. Mark had kind of some little backspread trades going on in a couple positions, which are looking really great as far as the Qs go, like kind of like buying the guts and selling the wings type of flies, which is probably unwinding today for pretty decent money. So like vol at 12, we were looking for ways to, I generally try to look for ways to buy like index vol or equity vol. And then as long as there's some pretty decent decay, I buy some VXX puts in case things just kind of just die dead. And right now, basically the long volatility is sort of paying for the VXX puts that are sucking, and we'll see what happens. Then you unwind some of the long vol juice. So I think that's at least what I'm doing. I think that's what some of the guys in our pit chat and stuff like that are doing. And that, I think, at least as a strategy, VIX is only 1355. It's not like it's going to the moon. So it's like, I would call it's like the first sell-off. It's the first good sell-off of July for a couple of weeks, at least what it feels like anyway. And I think part of it came from just trying to get near. We were at all-time high in Qs just a couple of days ago, so it probably feels like more. So anyway, that's where we are. And unless some fantastic news comes out pretty soon, I don't know. Maybe the market is kind of just sideways and going nowhere for a while. Certainly possible.
Well, it hasn't been sideways and going nowhere. People hit me up here. I got to mention WWE. I will do it. WWE, one of the best performing stocks of the year. Who'd have thunk it? Up like 300%. Today, taking it on the chin a little bit on 80.5. They blew their doors off a couple of days ago on their earnings. They closed, 83.80. They opened up actually pretty kind of in line. But their earnings in general have been strong because on the heels of all those new revenue deals they're signing for all their shows. Who knew all this sports entertainment could be so valuable? Off of this 80.5 today, off about 4% or 3.25. So still, it's kind of hard to take the bloom off that rose. In the last 6 months, they've gone from, what were they? They were $34 6 months ago. Now they were threatening 90 just yesterday. So almost 3x that. So, yeah, not a bad run there for the land of the WWE. Speaking of bad runs, let's see what you guys got in store for us. It is time to go on, hopefully, a good run with you guys. It is time to open up our volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Vol voicemail. You guys know the drill. You ask us questions. Sometimes we ask you guys questions. We already talked about our Facebook question this week. A lot of you guys like to chime in on that one and our flash poll for all things Vol. I think that's all of our most recent questions here of the weekly. That looks like all of them. Let's get into what you guys got on your brain. Linears. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Those VXX puts traded. Those freaking puts again, Mr. Those VXX puts traded 2 cents this week. Did the meatball flip them for a nice 100% profit minus the commission? I did notice that they printed 2 cents briefly this week. Mr. Rock Lobster, did you dump them all?
I sadly no.
I love our listeners. They stay tuned to every tick of those puts. And the second they tick up, they hit us up. Did you sell? I think they're hoping for a little more than a penny. Even though 100% you can't look askance at that. Everyone's got VXX on the brain this week. Vizinator wants to know, are there VXX equivalents for Nasdaq, Dow, and the Russell 2000? That would be cool. That would be awesome to have those kind of products out there. Of course, VIX and S&P 500. What's it got that those other ones are lacking? A robust VIX futures market upon which to trade and to synthetically create these things that VXX loves to hold and erode. So you're kind of missing the key elements for what you need to really make a VXX Dow or a VXX Russell. I mean, there is VXN. These things exist. There's RVX for Russell, but they're pretty much just indicators, indices. There's no real robust trading vehicles that you could use to do something on the scale of VXX. I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, have you seen anything out there that approximates a VXX for the other indices?
I mean, not really. I know there's some Euro VXX. What is that, EVXX or something like that? There's some products out there like that. But for right now, I mean, for like just kind of a rough vol future trading product, VXX really is like the last game in town. UVXY is like, don't even bother with it. And they killed SVXY. I mean, it's a useless product at this point. So I think VXX is really the only game in town, which just improves the liquidity for it, which I think is good. So it's just one of those things where I think it's a good thing overall. To be honest, just you have one decent vol product that kind of works instead of having all these stupid ones that don't work. So my answer to that is nope. I think pretty much for right now, you got what you got.
You heard it, Vizinator. Andrew says all other vol products are stupid. So there you go.
VIX. VIX works well.
Put that
VIX
in your pipe and smoke it. Speaking of smart listeners, Mr. Rob, I like this guy. You can tell he's a genius because he agrees with me. Paul F. says Andrew should change his VIX zones to go negative to indicate when VIX is in drawdown mode. See, he's a smart man. He also mentions shame on him for nickeling Longo on the crystal ball. He should lose just for that. I agree. I should make him just automatically lose whenever he does that. What do you think, listeners? Let us know. So there you go. Clearly a smart man, Mr. Rock Lobster, because he agrees with me on almost every level. Maybe I should send him a shirt or something. What do you think?
I think, you know what? If you start sending shirts to everybody that agrees with you, you might run out of shirts. But that has to at least give them a reason to agree with you. So I think they at least have a shot. They got a good reason to agree with you now. Because Longo's going to send me a nice
added incentive. Oh, Longo's so handsome and such a deep voice. Oh, shirt for you. Why not?
Shirts for everybody.
Shirts for everybody. We're a T-shirt company now. Quality lands and shirts for all of the above. Mr. Rocklofter can speak to them. He has one. They are quite fancy. And when was the last time you wore your sweet Options Insider shirt, sir?
Actually playing golf not very long ago. It was it's quite a nice shirt, I got to say.
It is a good golf shirt. It's got that nice, athletic fabric to it, so it wicks away the moisture. See, we don't skimp. High end, Land's End only. Everyone asks, how do we get those? A lot of CEOs of the business are walking around with them. So you have to be like a big industry player who wants one of our shirts, or you got to do one of our shows with us, or I guess we can sell them. It's kind of hard to make a profit on those because they're not that cheap. So we have to sell them for a good amount. And people will be like, why are they so expensive? Well, that's what a good Land's End shirt costs. All right, let's see. We got time for, here I am, pontificating about shirts. Let's see. What do we got here? Here's a fun one, Mr. Rock Lobster. A little thought question from Dawiz. Dawiz. I like Dawiz better. Dawiz wants to know, gun to your head, best VIX option strat. No dawdling, top of your head, go. Andrew. I'll make you go first. That's fine.
Best what?
Best VIX option strat of all time. Your go-to. You got to do one. Sight unseen.
I buy strangles.
Just pure strangles?
Yep.
Like 10% out of the money? What?
Actually, it's a secret, but it's an in-the-money strangle.
How far apart are your wings of this strangle here? Like one handle? What are you doing? What kind of craziness are you up to?
Yep. They're no more than one handle. So the best strategy I've found is an in-the-money put and then just out of the money call spread of ultra wide width.
So you have a little bit of kicker there. I was going to say, because you want something, obviously, that's going to give you that upside exposure. But the put, I wasn't expecting you to buy the put. You're not a big VIX put buyer. So I'm kind of surprised to hear you saying, but if it's that tight, I guess it's not that big of a deal.
Because usually the jump in vol actually will pay for the strangle. So it is a strategy that I teach when VIX is in a certain zone, to be honest. So, and it usually works pretty well.
It's a fun question, a good little thought question.
Yep.
If you have to go like volume-wise what trades in VIX all the time, it had to be the short 1x2 for a long time. When it's not really set up that well anymore, so we haven't seen it as much. I guess if I had to say volume of all time, that'd probably be the one that we just see the most. Sell 1, buy 2. Again, that works today. That doesn't really work too well in others. The nice thing about that strategy, though, is it doesn't really hurt you that much when it doesn't work that well. That's kind of why it's a good one, because it's kind of table stakes. At the end of the day, VIX is all about table stakes, right? It's about biding your time at the blackjack table until you hit the 21. And that's kind of what all these strategies are all about. So that's a decent one. Or maybe I kind of like the other side of that, too, a little bit of a nice bullish risk reversal with a put kicker. Or a call kicker on there, so you have a vertical with a short put. A lot of ways we can go. We don't have a lot of time to really get into them. And he wants top of the head, so I'll do those two for my top of the head. But there are so many. It's a good. We could do a whole show just pontificating on those. That's a good question. Dawiz, shirt for you too. All right, let's go here. How much time we got? Yeah, we're running up against it. It's time for the meatball to try to cheat me once again. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
Mr. Rock Lobster, can I just say that I told you so, sir? Because this is a moment when your cheating ways have come back to bite you. Because 2 weeks ago, as you recall, you shamefully nickeled me, as our friend, Paul F. pointed out there. Shirt for him, quite a smart man. You shamefully nickeled me to the upside on a crystal ball pick. And as a result, you scammed me out of a victory. So I turned the tables on you last week, and I did the same thing. I pennied you. You were at 12.22. I took away all your upside. I went to 12.23, like the nice, obnoxious jerk that I am. And it worked out. Technically, I win, even though we are a handle and a half away from that right now. So I don't think any of us really win. None of us really saw this kind of worm turn in here. As of beginning of showtime, close to it, those were both pretty good guesses. We were right in that range. And then it goes to show you how quickly, how just completely crazy the VIX worm shall be. So given my oppressive victory, I shall go first this week. Let's see where we're at. 13. We're at about 1375 or so right now. So the question is, are we buying? This is the new era. Is VIX popping up? Is this kind of the worm turning? Or we have seen this before. Is this going to ameliorate by the end of the day and by the early next week? And by the end of next week, we'll be right back down to where we were. I'm going to lean that way, Mr. Rock Lobster. I'm going to say this is going to be a nice little pop for a little bit, but towards the end of next week, we're going to start eroding back down. Maybe not all the way back to where we were, but a decent level. I'm going to say 1245 this time next week. I'll figure about 1.3 handles lower than we are now. All that, I bought you a lot of time, Mr. Rock Lobster. What are you going to do here? And if you penny me or nickel me, I shall hang up on you forthwith.
Well, what's harder, you scum me for a penny, right? And you're claiming that that is some noble gesture.
It's just, I just like to rub it in because it's fun. I turn the tables upon you, sir.
And the worst part is I was winning this morning. I looked at 10 o'clock around 10 Eastern time, like, VIX is down a little bit.
You had the downside and it worked.
I'm going to win. He scums me and he loses. So what I will say is, what are you saying? You're going, what, 1275? I'm going to be...
It's at 1245.
Right, 1245. Again, we have Apple earnings coming out, and if Apple doesn't blow the doors off it, the Qs could get real ugly. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to go 1325 for next week.
Interesting. It's about a half and a handle lower than where we are right now. So still elevated, but not quite as elevated as we are seeing right now.
Yep, I'm going to stick with that one, and then no scum in there. Either Apple earnings are great or everybody's going to be sad on Friday.
It all depends on how many iPads they could sell. Spoiler alert, it's actually iPhones. They don't really sell. iPads has kind of been a weird business for them from the beginning, but they do already. Either way, that music, listeners, means unfortunately we've come to the end of the Andrew Scumbag Hour, a.k.a. the Crystal Ball, a.k.a. the Volatility Views program. What a fun journey it has been. Talk some VIX, talk some VXX. Talked even a little bit of UFVXY sneaking in there, and of course your Facebooks, your Intels, your Amazons, your Twitters, all that good stuff. All you like equity all the time. There you go. We even got it in on Volatility Views. You're welcome. Happens about once a quarter or so enjoy it. All right, before we go, let me go back around the horn. Let's start. Let's go to the Rock Lobster here. Sir, if I wanted to go to a class on Saturday, but I don't like doing it on Saturday, so let's say I wanted to take a Saturday class on Sunday. It's better for my schedule. Where should I go? What should I do?
That's right, because Sunday is a great day. You go to optionbit.com/fix and learn. It's also on our event page. Learn how to fix the trades you have that are broken. Also, you can subscribe to my Vol newsletter, although not the greatest 2 weeks for my Vol newsletter. A little greedy with my VXX. But other than that, for the most part, it's got a pretty decent track record, plus lots of videos and ways to learn about trading volatility. So it is a great way to learn about vol, even if you subscribe for a month.
There you go. Check it out. If you enjoy Saturday classes but prefer them on Sunday, they got you covered. And if you like reading things about in-the-money VIX strangles, I almost said VXX, and all sorts of other fun stuff, Andrew the Rock Lobster. Is it called the Rock Lobster's Vol newsletter?
No, just a Vol newsletter. But
the Rock Lobster letter?
Yep.
The Lobster letter, perhaps? I'm giving you gold here.
Maybe I should change the name. It would be catchier.
I'm giving you gold. First, you do a Saturday show on Sunday, then you don't accompany it into your branding. What are you guys doing over there? You're killing yourself. All right, head on over to optionpit.com. If you too want to take your Saturday classes on Sunday and read a newsletter that is not named the Rock Lobster's Vol newsletter and all other good stuff, optionpit.com is the place to go. And of course, on behalf of the Rock Lobster, I'll even say the Meatball, why not him too, Andy, myself, I want to thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, and subscribing, for joining us live, for sending in questions, all the fun things that you do, for tweeting, for making wry comments about Andrew, for agreeing with me all the time. I love you for that too. And we'll see you next week for more Volatility Views.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.